As many of you know, my wife Nena is the child of immigrants. Her parents immigrated from Nigeria about 50 years ago. And she and all her sisters were born in America, but she's the child of immigrants. And she's lived in San Francisco for 15 years, and then we got married, and I was charming enough to bring her across the bridge, as much as she didn't want to, and now she lives here in Oakland. But she talks about when she lived in San Francisco, and people would hear her story, they would always say, "Oh, your parents must be so proud that you got an advanced degree and became a lawyer." And she was like, "Well, yeah, they are proud," and she knew what they were kind of getting at. And she said, "Yes, they're very proud, and just know my father has a PhD." And we sometimes think of immigrants as, we put them in a box. "Oh, you're an immigrant, so obviously you're like this, and you come from nothing," or we make all these assumptions about people, and we like to put them in a box. And even when Nena was in San Francisco working as a lawyer, she ended up working with tech companies. So I can imagine her parents bragging about her being a lawyer, and people being like, "Oh, what kind of lawyer?" And it's like, "Well, she works with tech startups," and her parents' friends just being like, "I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good thing or not." And just being confused by that whole situation. And then, being kind of in the tech industry, Nena and some friends started an organization called Black Founders, which was trying to promote black people in the tech community. Because again, we like to put people in boxes. And the tech community is very white and very male. And they were trying to shatter those images and stereotypes and say, no, this is open to everybody. And she worked with that organization for a little while. But it's like, how do we put people in boxes? And especially a lot of you are parents or even grandparents, and you want the best for your children and your grandchildren. And I wonder though if to some extent we kind of maybe put those kids and grandkids in boxes. And that can be helpful at times, but maybe sometimes it's not. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and it was sort of like middle class, upper middle class. And looking back now, it seems like it was a place for middle managers and corporations to live. And then for me growing up now, looking back, it was where they wanted us to grow up and then become future middle or upper management in massive corporations. It's like a very simple. It was kind of this funnel to get you into this certain way of being in life and all that stuff. But then the problem was I also went to church, and I ended up following God's call in my life, and I'm very far from being a middle manager in a massive corporation. I'm a priest. And to some people, they might look at that and say, well, that's a failure. Either I failed or my parents failed or something because I was supposed to do this. Why are you going in this other direction? You're supposed to be over here. And in today's gospel, we have Jesus proclaiming and preaching and teaching and doing signs and wonders. And he goes back to his hometown. And he's preaching and proclaiming these signs and wonders. And the people are incredulous. You're just the carpenter. Stop preaching what you're doing. Stop trying to be too big for your britches, as some people say. Go pick up the chisel and the hammer and get to work. Stop trying to be more than you're supposed to be. You're Joseph's son, you are from this town, and you need to do and fit in this box that we have for you. And Jesus is like, no, I'm supposed to be who I'm supposed to be and do what I am supposed to do. And so they reject him. The very people he grew up around reject Jesus. And then this story is then followed by the story of Jesus saying, you go home where you're supposed to be cared for, loved, and seen, and valued, and instead because it is Jesus sending the disciples out. All right, we're rejected here. We go. We go and we preach Jesus. And they do these amazing signs and wonders. And I wonder, I like to picture Peter and some of the other disciples going home to their parents and talking about all the amazing signs and wonders they did in the name of Jesus. And their parents being like, yeah, that's interesting. When are you going to come back and fish? You're a fisherman. This is what you're supposed to do. How long are you going to go play at that Jesus thing? And I think it's good of parents and grandparents to want children to live a safe, stable life. I think that's a great thing. I think it's good to long for your children to have a good income, a good job, a nice home. These are all great things. And sometimes when they follow Jesus, that'll change. And it'll take them into different places. And I can imagine it's really hard to kind of allow that to happen. Seeing your kids do something where it's like, all right, I don't know how that's going to turn out. But I also like, in the area we live in, wonder if we have these pictures of Bill Gates starting Microsoft in a garage. Or we have Steve Jobs starting Apple in a garage, tinkering. I recently heard a comedian joking about that. He was like, all these people started these epic companies in a garage. He's like, so I'm supposed to maybe do that? He's like, but I live in an apartment. I long to have the garage of their humble beginnings. But I wonder if when Bill Gates was tinkering in the garage, always hanging out on his computer, typing code and everything, his parents are like, oh, we just worry he's not going to be stable financially. We wonder what's going to end up with Bill Gates. Will he have enough money? But instead he followed what he wanted to do and his passion, and it took him somewhere else. So what does it mean for us as followers of Jesus? What kind of box have we put ourselves in, or do we put our children or our grandchildren in? And is that maybe limiting people in their pursuit of following God's call on their life? Because our job as Christians is to love God, love ourselves, and love our neighbor. And when you do that in America, that makes you really weird. Because in America, you're supposed to look out for number one, and you're supposed to step on people as you do it. I mean, maybe we don't proclaim that overtly, but that's kind of what the system teaches us, right? And so if we follow God's call in our life, we are going to look weird. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely outside the box of what the neighbors say. And, when you get together with your friends and brag about your children or your grandchildren, it looks a certain way. But how often is it like, well, they follow Jesus? And I think that's beautiful. And I don't think a stable job and stable income and a house is a bad thing. I think it's great. I've said this in other sermons. It feels like in America, for American Christians, the goal is to have enough money so that you don't actually need faith. But I also want to say, having enough money isn't a bad thing, right? It's good to save, it's good to be prudent, it's good to have money, but it can't replace our faith in God. So as we try to be responsible, as we try to live our lives faithfully, we're also holding on to God. As Ben often sings, holding to God's unchanging hand. Build our hopes on things eternal and hold to God's unchanging hand. Because sometimes when you go home, they're just trying to put you in that box. You're like, wow, I'm trying to hold to Jesus' hand and live faithfully. It's like, yeah, but when are you going to kind of come back and do what you're supposed to do? It's like, I don't think ever. I'm going to do what God calls me to do. I'm going to hold to this hand, and I'm going to hold tight. And life will have its ups and downs, but, as we've seen with people who have boatloads of money, doesn't always bring happiness. They still go through the ups and downs as well. People who did fit into the box and did what they were supposed to do. So what do we do if there's struggle no matter what? We hold. I think I'm getting older and doing that for a while, but now when I drive past a really big, nice home, I used to be like, oh, that'd be so nice. I wish I'd have that. Now I drive by and I'm like, ooh, I hope they go to therapy. Because I'm like, that big house isn't going to make you happy. You're still stuck with yourself. You just have lots of different places to sit down and be stuck with yourself. I'm like, it's a nice house. I think it's great. And I hope that they're happy inside that home. But that's not going to bring you happiness. If you're unhappy in a small house, you'll be unhappy in a big house. So the best thing we can do is cling to Jesus. Hold to his hand. And then try our best to make space for the people in our lives. Not put them into boxes, but say, hey, you need to be who you need to be. And that's really hard. Because you want that stability, you want that safety, you want all the things for your kids and your grandkids. And you want them to cling to Jesus. Amen.
Amen.